Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we're going to do a character guide on 8. I never did one on him back when he got his C90, so let's do one right now. 8's actually a pretty cool character, and I think he's a character you definitely could get some use out of, depending on the type of team comps you want to use, but I really like the defense counter style teams, and he fits in really well into those. So 8 is a character who does dodge counters, and if you have his LD and his EX effects up, he actually double counters. So he's somebody like Gao who can do double counters and really help like upgrade Core's FR. So I'm going to actually try him in a comp with Core in this video and see how he works out. So in this video, we're going to take a look at his artifacts, his spheres, and his calls, and see how good our boy 8 is looking. Once again, at this time in the game, like he's not like majorly reworked or anything right now, so I don't know that he's a character you should go out of your way to get, but if you're lacking counter characters and you want to have access, like he is going to be very good for that. If you have FRs that are like counter tank heavy or like counter heavy FRs, you just want to be careful. He is like a lock character, so he wants to be targeted. So you do not want to run him with a character like Gladio or Oron or like what's his face, Galuf. You don't want to run him with like cover tanks or other lock characters because he's the one that you want to be getting attacked. Otherwise, you only get the benefit on all attacks. So you just have to be careful about that. But running him with like Core and Gao is a really nice setup, I think. So we're going to try that out. So let's start by looking at his calls. His calls I don't think are anything special. Yeah, the 15 CP, it does have some buffs to the calling member. The other thing too, I guess the one benefit of his calls is just in general, it is a lock call. So there is use to having lock calls. I always recommend like putting a lock call on someone like Kane, because you can have Kane jump up in the air and then the enemies will lock onto him and then they're just going to whiff while he's up in the air. So as a lock call, there's some use to it, but for other things, it's not really that crazy. It does do some buffs on the caller. Brave and HP damage up, attack up, max brave up, which is pretty decent. And then on the LD, when you attack broken targets or you break them, you get more brave damage and HP damage up. So it's a decent little call you can use. I think putting it on like Kane though could be a really decent spot for that call. It's just not one that I think of to use very often, but if you need a lock call, it is good for that, right? So let's go ahead and look at 8 himself. So my 8 isn't like, I would say mine's like a minimum investment. Like I've got the LD armor, but I haven't booked it. I haven't blued it. I have his LD. I'm Force Enhanced 10 him. But I did put an ultimate weapon on to compensate, so this might look closer to what like a normal maxed out 8 might look like. So I just want to see what his damage could look like there with the ultimate weapon on. So for his artifacts, pretty easy. Attack 108 and then a C50, which is Righteous Martial Artist Boost 2-star. Basically, you want to just get as much attack with this guy as you can. What he does is on his attacks and his counters, he does do brave gains, and it scales on attack or the HP damage he deals. And so giving him attack is the best way to help his brave gains, right? So you definitely want those. And then that being said, we'll think about that on his spheres as well. So for his spheres, you really want to focus on attack and brave damage like a typical damage dealer. Now what I decided to do with 8, because he's an evade character, and evade characters aren't very common, there are some very good A-slot evade spheres, so I decided just to go crazy on those. So I gave him 2 of his own sphere, which 2 of his own sphere isn't bad. Now you'll notice that his sphere says does not stack with the same sphere. I've talked about this in other videos. It just means you literally can't use another of the exact same sphere, but it considers the refined version and the normal version to be different spheres. So I have his normal sphere, which is a fat 20% attack up. I do believe that's the largest attack up you can get on a sphere, so I recommend just tossing his own on him. Then his refined one even still does 8%. So basically when he dodges, he's getting 28% attack from those 2 spheres. And then I put Cater's on because Cater is an eye brave and attack sphere. So on all of that, when he dodges, he's getting a bunch of attack and a little bit of eye brave. So that's the setup I'm kind of liking. Now, you could do traditional A-spheres like Sephiroth or even like Arden or something like that just give him attack and max brave or just straight up attack. You definitely could do that, but I like, to me, and I've talked about this before, since there are so many A-spheres out there, I really like to utilize ones that not every character can use. So when a character has a specialty, I like to use the A-spheres that fit into that specialty. So sure, I could put a Jack Spear on him and it would be good. It's attack and brave damage, but Jack Spear is something I can put on anybody. Right? Whereas these evade spheres, they're just going to collect dust. So evading is what he's meant to do. I'm going to use him in defense comps where the enemies are attacking a lot, so he's going to evade a lot and be able to upkeep that. So to me, that's the way I would build 8, right? All right, let's go ahead and hop into a fight. And I actually do want to bring a Selfie if possible. Selfie or Pinello actually is fine. Either one. I just want to ramp. I guess we'll do Selfie so we could potentially launch too. But yeah, I want to be able to ramp into Core's FR, and I want to show him off with Core's FR is I think what I want to do, right? So here's the thing with 8. He's actually quite simple. You just need to make sure that you upkeep his LD buff. So he does start with 6 turns of it. Now watch right here. We're going to get attacked immediately, and you're going to see him dodge, and you're going to see him double counter immediately. So what happens, and look, 300k from that counter, and then he's got, what, another 100k from that. So pretty good counter damage, and then Gao's going as well. And Gao doesn't have his double counter set up yet. We have to get that set up, right? So he's got his landslide going, so we need to get, I think I want to do, I mean, Cat Scratch is more aggressive, but we'll do Life Shaver for healing. The one thing with this team comp is we don't have, like, the Mega Tank, like, Gladio to protect us, so, like, we are at risk of, like, Core and Gao, like, taking damage, so I probably will toss a Raijin on at some point, just to make sure. So what I'm going to do is, so let's just talk about some of his buffs, right? So his really important buff is this defense buff, and this comes from his LD. You want to upkeep it because it extends all of his buffs by 2 turns, okay? And his main evasion buff that he gets is from his EX, and that is called Phantom Rush. And so it's a 4-turn buff. You need to upkeep that, and you can only get on the EX. The thing is with his LD buff up, this is going to extend out to a 6-turn buff. And if it's a 6-turn buff, you can basically have 100% upkeep on that because the EX will refresh before it runs out. So that's the main thing, is watch out for the LD buff to fall off and then use the EX whenever it pops up. So other than that, you can just do filler attacks in between, right? So let's just do some of his attacks. So let's start with Quick Bolt Stance. This is his 15. Okay, 500k. Just did a little bit of damage. See, nothing too crazy, right? Just a Brave Gain. It does upkeep and give him a Quick Bolt buff. So the Quick Bolt is attack 40%, max Brave 30, and speed 30%. And then Core, we are going to hit up, we're going to hit up our boy 8 and give him the buff there, the Oath of Absolute Defense. And then we're going to get Core's EX up. And then what I think I might do is I might sub out Gao and do Selfie. And then we'll go into Core FR after that, is I think what we'll do. So Gao, yeah, let's sub into Selfie. I'm tempted to just wall out right away rather than put launching on, because the whole point here isn't to see launching. So sure, let's just wall right away. Actually, I can Aura and increase 8's EX and get it up quicker. That isn't a bad idea. Let's do that. I normally don't do this as part of a Selfie ramp, but it will increase his EX gauge, so sure. We'll do that a little bit. And then let's go ahead and wall again. And then what we'll do is we'll get however much force charging I can get out of Selfie, and then we'll just naturally take turns until we can get into Core Force. But I do want to get into Core Force. Here's the thing with 8. Like, I can show his skills off to you, which I will. But realistically, he's meant to be off turn. Because you saw that 15 attack was just literally just a quick little attack, not much damage. He's really about his off turn. That's really what he's built for. So this is the type of fight you want to use him in. Alright, so I'm locked into Life Shaver, so I'm going to keep doing that. I could Landslide, but yeah, let's just Life Shaver. It's fine. Let Core do that, yep. Alright, so we got 8 up again. So let's go ahead and do Last Stand Rush so you can see that. Now we got Core going, we'll get a little bit more damage in there, right? Alright, so 500k with a low splash, that was something a little decent there. So this gives him his Last Stand buff, which is attack and max Brave up and then Brave and HP damage up. So just getting all the, basically his 15 and 35 are filler attacks and the upkeep buffs. That's all that they are. So really just watch that LD defense buff and you hit his EX whenever that thing pops up to upkeep his dodge. You do not want the dodge to fall off. Okay, let's see what we take here. Yeah, see, this is why I want Life Shaver on, because, yeah, we need the healing to keep up so Core and Gao don't die. But, yeah, double counters, and his counters are heavy, right? Like, it's better than what Gao's doing on his counters, I think. Let's see what Gao's damage is. Let me double check. Oh, yeah, that was actually really weak damage. Yeah, oh, yeah, for sure. So his damage is way better than Gao, but when Gao gets his FR, he's going to be looking pretty good. All right, so we've got Core back up, but we're still a little bit of ways. Sure, let's just put a Radiant Breath on. I just want to like be like really safe here because I don't want Core and Gao to die. And I just want to get in a Core FR and kind of show how 8 will interact in this Force time, right? Sure, let's do a little LD spam here just to get the gauge up a little bit. Sure, and then we'll go ahead and do his HP attack. Now, Core, or not Core, but 8 also has a special HP attack we'll talk about when it comes up. Alright, and then sure, let's just refresh Oath on 8. That's fine. And I could have done the Oath cheese and put it on all 3 characters, but I'm not worried. Like, I'm not doing like a full fight showcase. I just want to see what 8 looks like in a Force time, right? That's all we're trying to do here. He's just another character I think that can fit into these. I think he does work really well with Rydia also, because he's going to carry his own dodge, right? Okay. So we got that. Perfect. Counter, counter. The one thing is his animations do take a while, so just be prepared. The other bad part too is on single target, Gao won't counter because we have to actually take hits. So that's the other bad part about trying to combo it with Gao, right? That is something to keep in mind. Sure, let's just do a landslide here. Our Rydia will fall off pretty quick though, and then on the all attacks, you know, Gao will get going again. What I need to do is actually put Raijin on. We're just doing this to hold us over and get us into that Force time. But yeah, his animations do take forever. And Nate, 8 is known for doing solo runs because, once again, if he just has 100% chance to dodge, like, he could easily solo fights. As long as the boss doesn't have mechanics to, like, negate him, that's exactly what happened. Alright, so now we've got Phantom Rush. Let's check our defense, by the way, too. So defense is still at 4, which is good. So let's use the EX Phantom Rush. This should do some pretty good damage. Once again, you typically want to press that. Okay, yeah, that was pretty decent damage. That was 1 mil with some splash there, right? Okay, so we'll let those go. He's going to dodge, counter rush out. Let's talk about the EX while he dodges forever. So Phantom Rush, Brave gaining based on his attack, a big HP attack after that. He upkeeps the Phantom Rush buff, which we'll talk about. So the Phantom Rush buff is 100% evasion, and then he just triggers the Break Sight Blow. So that gives him one of his counters. And that's all that really does. By the way, his counters do put a defense down debuff on the enemies as well, which is pretty cool. And then on the LD, he gets the defense buff, which we haven't used that yet. We'll use on the next turn, and then we'll kind of go through that. Sure, let's Reaper Scale because it's free, and that might get us in the FR, actually. Ooh, just about. What I'll do is I'll use an AA, because I do want to get to that. So let's go ahead and pop an AA. I mean, I do want to use the Lion's Roar. Let me see. Did his... Hold on. No, he's got his buff. That's good. Alright, so yeah, let's just FR. We'll get the FR started and let Ultimisia start to go crazy and take a bunch of turns. And then I believe our Rydia should fall off soon if it hasn't already. And then once the all attacks start hitting our characters, once again, the one anti-synergy is if it's single target and he dodges, like, Gao will not counter. But that's okay. This team does a lot of all attacks, so we'll be fine. Alright, so once again, we're going to get 5% bumps. Oh, the Confused, but we dodge. That's good. The Confused can really mess you up, but since we got dodging, we're all good here. Alright, and yeah, now we're going to be getting FR bumps, and the off-turn damage is going to get crazy at this point, right? Alright, so on 8's next turn, we are going to pop the LD, so we can show that off. As Ultimisia just gets herself broken. That's fine. Yeah, we'll take all the off-turns. That's fine. Alright, so 8, let's just double-check here. Yep, so Phantom Rush is at 6 now. Once again, it's normally a 4 turn when we use the X, but we got 6 because of defense. So let's go ahead and pop that. So let's go ahead and... I mean, I don't know why I have Luna Freya on him. Doesn't make sense. I'm not going to use it. But yeah, let's do Explosive Fist. And let's see what the damage looks like. This is at 148% gauge, by the way. Okay. Alright, solid damage. A mil AoE, but that was with gauge, right? So it'd probably be like 750k or something normally. But yeah, we got Core FR going, so we're going crazy. So Explosive Fist is a big AoE attack there. Gives him 6 turns of that defense buff, which is super important. So the defense buff is an attack, overflow stolen up, brave gain up, 20% HP damage deal after HP attacks, versus broken targets or when he breaks, brave damage and HP damage up. His buffs get 2 turn extra duration, and then it triggers his other counter attack. And then if he takes lethal damage, he has Last Stand. So he, as long as he's above 50% HP, if he happens to take lethal damage, he will go down to 1 HP. which is decent, right? And then it also does put a lock on the enemies, so the enemies now are, any single target is going to come at 8, and he is going to dodge it, right? Gao has Beast Raid, but I don't want to use that because I'm going to lose double counters. So let's just stay with, how's my landslide buff at? I think my buff's okay. Yeah, sure, we'll do landslide. And then we'll just go back in the life shaver, and then we'll sub double counters. That's fine. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we'll just go back in the life shaver. Okay. I do think one thing I want them to fix with Gao, and I haven't looked at what his next rework looks like. Maybe they fix it. But something I would want them to fix with Gao, I have Reaper's Gao, but I'm not going to use it, is to make it so his EX doesn't like reset his buffs. Like, I would want him to keep his double counters after using his EX. I don't know if they would change that, though. Okay, so let the enemies attack. Now let's just, basically we're just going to watch 8 kind of go crazy here, right? And this is where Ultimisa is going to go nuts and start stealing turns, which is what we want. And then once again, combined with Core's FR, we should be getting a lot of gains. And I do think, like, 8's counters are going to be the heaviest damage, I think, on the team. I think he is going to be dealing the most damage. So let's see. Once again, double counters. Like, yeah, that was a mill, and that was only one of his counters. And then here comes Counter Rush. For another, so he just did 1.5 mil already. And we're only at, like, under 400% gauge still, right? So, yeah. 8 is definitely, like, on a team like this, he's going to carry the damage. It's very similar to, like, I did a run like this on a Shinryu, like, maybe a week or two ago with Galuf, and Galuf really carried the damage. It was when we were doing the Crevasse. I used Galuf on one of those runs, and he's the one that really carried the damage there because his counters were really heavy. So, yeah, 8, I mean, he's good. Like, you definitely, if you like this type of team, you definitely want to build up 8. And the nice thing with 8, he is a low-invest character. He's LD only. So you don't have to invest in an FR or a BT. His armor definitely doesn't need to be blue. Like you can see, I'm outputting very good damage here, and mine does not have blue armor. Now I have the Ultima weapon, but you don't need that either. And then here we got Phantom Rush. Sure, let's pop that again. Upkeep our dodge. In a team comp like this, with all of, with the really aggressive enemies, there's no reason he shouldn't be able to upkeep his dodge 100% of the time by popping those EXs. So like he's literally just going to be a dodging machine. Obviously, the big flaw he's going to have is some enemies or a lot of enemies on their recast abilities or their force attacks, they're going to be non-dodgeable. So he definitely is susceptible there. But it's nice they give him that last stand to compensate for it, where he would survive lethal damage. So even if he can survive that one attack, then he can just heal back up and be good, right? So that's basically 8. I mean, I've pretty much shown everything. But sure, we'll just kind of go through and finish... I want to finish this force time and just see how he's doing here. But yeah, damage coming through. Look at that. 1.5 mil. And then that, yeah. And then now Gao's going to be coming through, and he's going to be pumping the gauge up a little bit more. Because as we get these all attacks, yeah, it's going to be crazy. Gao's going to double bump. I do really like Gao. He's a beast. Kind of literally. Alright, so up to 500%. So yeah, core FR is still very good. Even with only 5% bumps. You just have to have the aggressive fights. There's so many good FRs for aggressive fights, though, right? Like Celis, Minwoo, Rydia, Ferris. Ferris is good off turn. There's just so many combos for these defense teams. I love it, though. Defense teams are probably one of my favorites. You kind of just watch the game on auto mode. Just be prepared. If you're going to do an 8 solo fight, just be prepared for a very, very long fight. I haven't actually looked at Sai's Shinryu. If the bosses allow, I could technically maybe do a Sai solo. Or not a Sai solo. I mean, I think you could do Sai solo or 8 solo, to be honest. Depending, I don't know. Because Sai dodges too, right? And you just let her traps work. I don't know. All my buffs are fine. I don't really need to refresh any of it. We'll just do the LD for damage. And we've done all of his attacks, right? But yeah, I'm someone that's willing to admit 8 is a character I've probably underutilized. Like, I've had him with LD for a while. And I've just chosen other characters over him. But he definitely is a nice slot into these defense comps. So I'm glad I got myself to do the showcase to kind of show him off here. And you know what? Where the enemies are going to be not taking turns. So I'm going to Reaper scale. And the best thing that could happen here is Ultimisia steals turns and jumps in front. Let's see. I don't think she will, though, no. So that's going to be kind of the end of it there. But sure, we'll go ahead and... let's end with an LD here with core. But anyways, there you go. There's 8. Very good off-turn damage dealer. Let me know what you think of this guy. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.